And then what happened for the next 4 months was the hardest 4 months of my life, honestly. Because when you're building a business at the beginning, it's like there are two sides to business. You have product, you have sales. That's it. You have product, you have sales. The better product you have, the better you'll be at sales, right? Because you'll be able to speak with more conviction. The better you're at sales, the better the product will be, because you'll be able to have more clients. So the more clients you have, the more iteration you'll be able to go through to build a better product, right? So at the beginning, you have neither. Right? It's like, and as far as like resources, right? As entrepreneurs, as human beings in general, we have two resources. We have time, we have money, right? At the beginning, you don't have money and you barely have time, just because you don't really know what the fuck you're doing, right? So you have to make time. You have to force yourself to make enough time and then be able to turn that time into money, right? In a way that's meaningful and that's sales, right? But at the beginning, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. When you're starting off, you don't have a frame of reference. You don't even know what you don't know. You don't even know what question to ask about the first question, right? So at that point, it's like it becomes really, really hard. So for me, like getting started, it was tough, man. It was point being, it's like over the course of those 4 months, I dove really, really deep. I was making cold calls, like I was just learning all these tech stuff, like softwares. I was like, what is this? What is that? What is Zapier? What is ClickFunnels? What is Facebook ads, right? Like, I had no idea. I just knew that was an important skill I wanted to master. I wanted to learn. So coming out of those 4 months, that's my first ever client was one of my buddies who owned an in-person training studio. I ended up paying. I was like, hey man, like listen, I'm just getting started with this thing. Let me test it out. He's my buddy from high school. I was like, yo, let me put my money down. I'll run ads for you, and then like you'll just keep for this as a trial. Like for like that was the first client I ever sold, right? So I dropped $500 of my own money. He made $3,000. He bought in a one personal training client. He's like, oh, cool, dude. Like this is cool. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing back then.
Yeah. And that was free, or was that like a profit split, or?
No, dude. Like I hadn't, like it was free because I was like, I just wanted an experience. And for me, it's like, beyond that, it's like it was completely free on his end. I literally just put out $500 of my own money, even though I had no fucking money at the time. I remember like I was in such a tight spot that at the time, like after he made the $3,000, I was like, hey man, like, would you guys be cool with covering that $500? I know I said I would come out of pocket, but like honestly, like in a little bit of a tight spot. And he was like, well, he would have been cool with it, but he had a business partner. He was like, well, no, like, well, dude, like you already said, like you would cover it. I was like, cool, no worries. So pretty much I paid $500 out of pocket, made him $3,000, right? So at least the proof of concept was there. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Build a little more confidence, right? But the next client, he's still working with us today, 4 years later, right? So his name's, I'm not going to disclose his name. He owns a CrossFit gym over in Staten Island, and for him, he was just stepping in as the role of he was a new owner of the gym. He just bought it out, and when I called him cold call, I closed him because like at the time I was like, hey man, like listen, like I just graduated from UMass Amherst. I just bought into this course. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have an idea that this will work. But let me get your results first, then you can pay me. You don't have to worry about anything. You just have to cover the ad spend, right? You just have to cover the costs. And he's like, cool, yeah, I'll do it. And I just didn't know anything at the time. However, but once I got started with him, after a few conversations, it took actually more than one conversation. The trust was built. He looked at my LinkedIn. He's like, cool, hey man, like I see what you're doing. I see, like I think I can trust you. I was like, yeah. And I remember the next